Welcome back to Link by Golf. I'm your host Ross McGuire, and in this week's episode I'm delighted to be joined by Brian Inglis from Scotland. Brian is someone who's been involved in golf his entire life, whether that was through playing or also working in the golf industry. He's taken that as far as writing his own book. He's played 534 golf courses across the UK and Ireland, and he's got some great stories to tell. So without any further delay, let's go over to Brian. Brian, how you doing? Good to see you.
I'm good, Ross. Good to see you, pal.
So, Brian, simple way to start the podcast. Very easy question. Where are you from, and how did you get into golf?
Well, Ross, as you know, I'm a Falkirk boy, and my dad was a member at Falkirk Golf Club, known locally Carmuirs, and my brother, I've got a brother 5 years older than me, so as soon as I was turning 9, 10, 11, not only was my dad away to the golf, but on a Sunday, my dad and my big brother were away to the golf, and I was desperate to go. So I'd go out and I'd pull the trolley and I would muck about and I'd have a few putts and everything like that. So it was obvious that when I was old enough, 10, 11, I joined the club, Easter 1974, exactly 50 years ago. And that's how it came about. When I was old enough, we were out on a Sunday afternoon. My mum and my dad, my mum would come and have a wee walk around, and she just used to love it. The sixth at Carmuirs in these days came right back to the clubhouse, so it was half a dozen holes, my dad would say, and that was how it started. And then you just join, and there was loads of us, and all our dads were members, and it just goes from there. You know the picture. It's at every club in the land, really.
Yeah, and so you're a pretty good golfer. So what kind of age did you notice that you were playing maybe a slightly different level to your friends and getting more competitive? What kind of age was that happening?
Well, there was a few of us. That was the great thing about it, that everybody was improving. And I don't know, Ross, there might have been 20 of us on the putting green, junior medals and all the rest of it. And it was really competitive. So you were wanting to get to single figures. That was the thing. And I think me and a couple of the other boys got there maybe 14. Well, maybe 14 we started to separate ourselves. And Carmuirs, the Falkirk Golf Club at the time, had what they called a junior senior membership, where you would, I was going to say you would pay, but your dad would pay a wee bit more, and you would have a senior handicap. And this was the old handicap system, where you got to 5. I think you had to get 2 cards for 4, and then 3 cards for 3, and 4 cards for 2, and all that.
Okay.
Before
so
the
that's even
Congu
before the Congu system.
That was before Congu, aye. So 2 or 3 of us got down to single figures and got to play with the men. And I think by the time I was 15, I was down to about 4, and that was really the thing. It just kind of went on from there.
Yeah, and we're getting down to that handicap, Brian. Were you playing in like county events and sort of Scottish events and stuff? Did that open those doors for you? It
was mostly around the doors. The boys opens. There's courses all over the place near round about Falkirk and Stirlingshire, and they all had a boys open. And the Stirlingshire Golf Union had great tournaments as well. So it was really the dads that took us everywhere, and we played. And you get to know boys that I still know to this day, and you see them once in a blue moon, and you hark back to the days when you were juniors. Boys for Glenbervie and Christ and Stirling and Bonnybridge and Grangemouth. It was brilliant, really. Yeah, and some really good tracks there as well. It was great to get around them all, and some of them you found a wee bit maybe easier than Carmuirs, and some of them you found a wee bit more difficult than Carmuirs. And that's when of course that was all we knew, was the inland game at that time. And then when you start to go to the coast, and the first time you play in the Scottish boys, and it's the first week in April, and it's Baltic, and it's blowing a gale at West Kilbride. Was my first experience. For you? And I got horsed in the first round. I really had no idea what I what I was really trying to do. Well, you just kind of go from there, but you play in the central belt. It's just one type of golf really, and then you go out to the coast and it's a different game altogether.
Yeah, and it's funny for people listening who are not from, well, I'll say from Scotland, because it's quite hard to get to links courses even in England. But folks from outside the UK, they always think that we play loads of links golf, and it's really quite funny. Unless you're a member of a links course specifically, you don't really play a lot of links golf, although you kind of know how to play it, but not like an expert, right? That's pretty unusual.
Dead right.
Yeah. So clearly your game progressed then, Brian. You're playing in those sort of Scottish events, and did you keep playing those events as you got older and were starting to get towards the working world as well, so like youths and men's stuff?
Well, I kind of tried to, and I wanted to. There was still, I don't know if it's still going on. I don't think it is, Ross. Actually, the West of Scotland Golf Association. There was the West of Scotland Boys and the West of Scotland closed, and I don't know if they're still in existence, these tourneys. But I tried to. I started working when I was 17. That was 1979. So I missed the Scottish Boys stroke play that year, and it was at Stirling as well. But I couldn't get the holidays for it. So I kind of lost interest a wee bit. Scottish Boys in 1980, I was at Forfar and I did quite well. That was the day that I discovered I was 5 days too old to get my cap. Where the selector came over and said to my dad, "Right, Jack, we've decided we're going to pick him," and they didn't even know my date of birth or anything. And my dad said, aye, that's brilliant. Well, his date of birth is 26/8/62. And the boy's face fell. He said, "Jack, we can't pick him. He has to be born on or after the 1st of September.
And just to be clear, you were a junior at this time, and the Scottish selector was saying to your dad that he was going to pick you for the team until they found out your birthday was 5 days too early. That's
right. So I was 5 days too old, and they didn't know, they hadn't checked, and
because everything. So that must have been changed then. Was that based on like 1st of September before?
1st of September, because the home internationals were in the middle of September, and you had to still be 17 to play in them.
Ah, right, okay.
And obviously I would have been 18, but I think now it's 1st of January. So if you're 17 on the 1st of January, you're a junior for the whole year.
Yeah, of course. Geez, what a bit in the places that would hurt with that. That's a real shame.
So that was a bit of a shame. I was quite sad that day.
Yeah, I can imagine. And then from there, Brian, I mean, you kept playing golf, but your working career started. So what was it in terms of work that you started with, and how did that journey go for you in the early days?
Well, it was nothing to do with golf to begin with. I had 10, maybe 11 years. I got the first job I applied for, which was working for a road haulage company in the office. And I just went to work. I didn't go to university. I just went straight out to work, so I could have money to go and play golf and buy golf equipment and petrol and buy a car and all that, and go and play golf.
Excellent.
So I worked in a road haulage company until the early 90s, and then I sold insurance for a wee while, and then I was selling chemicals, 1993 I think it was, and it was just out of curiosity I started calling into greenkeeper sheds to see if they wanted to buy degreasers and oils and hand cleaner and all that sort of stuff.
Right.
So that was where the curiosity came from. And obviously I had my clubs in the boot all the time anyway, because I was playing golf all the time. And then I bumped into an old junior pal of mine from Stirling, who was the sales manager at a golf supply company out that way.
Right.
And one of his reps had left, and I went and spoke to them about it and got the job. And then I was selling into the golf industry, which was even better. So my whole day, all day, every day, was calling into the greenkeeper sheds. And then, of course, the greenkeepers start early and finish early. And then I was away playing golf after that.
So
It wasn't
that,
meant.
yeah, I was going to ask. I mean, that was one of the questions I had there, was how did you get into the sort of golf sales world? But it sounds like you almost manufactured it yourself, because you're at a company that's not really selling to golf clubs themselves as such, and then that's led you into an opportunity where it's a company that is selling directly to golf clubs. That's brilliant.
Aye,
Super.
it was just a stroke of luck, really.
And this, clearly this wasn't when your golf bug started. It sounds like it's been there for a long time, but you mentioned you started to play maybe with some of the greenkeepers, or they allowed you on the course. So what kind of courses were you starting to get access to at that time beyond your personal golf, if you like?
I was just keen to play everywhere. You would always start the day by going to somebody that you were fairly sure was going to give you an order. So that got your day started. You would get an order and maybe a cup of coffee if you were lucky, and a couple of biscuits. And then you would go on and make some calls, and then by 2:30, 3:00, you would say to the boy, "Would you mind if I nipped out and had a few holes?" And they all said, "Aye, sure, on you go." Just so you'd either play the full round or play 9 holes or whatever. So I was just playing everywhere, and
Brilliant.
the bigger the courses, there was no suggestion of anybody ever saying no. They would, if there was room. Most golf
Yeah.
clubs at 3:00 in a midweek, there's nobody there
Uh-huh.
anyway.
And this
So
was within Scotland then, Brian? And
within
basically all
Scotland,
over Scotland.
I was in the west, and I did a wee
Okay.
bit in the borders, and then I was up the A9, did a wee bit of the Moray coast, and all the islands, and Arran and Machrihanish.
Fantastic. That sounds like a dream job.
Sometimes go away on the Monday. I used to set off early on a Monday and go straight to Turnberry. Try and get there for about 8:00 when George was coming in to have his tea. And then I would go for Turnberry down to Stranraer, and all the way, spend the week going along to Dumfries, and then back up on the Friday. There are my usual wee places I would stop over, and greenkeeping pals that I would take them for their tea and have a game of golf and a few beers with them. And it was brilliant.
Excellent. So you'd get to play places like Turnberry and all those courses down that way as well?
Aye, you wouldn't overdo it, obviously, but
Yeah.
once or twice, every now and again.
Brilliant. But that job, you must have loved doing that. But then I noticed that you joined Oak Ridge as a course manager in 2002. So what led you down that path, and what was it that attracted you to that position?
Well, there was 2 reasons for it, really. I was pushing 40 at the time, and there was make it sound quite old now, right enough, but I was pushing 40, and there was elements of the job that was sometimes a bit hands-on. We had a contracting side, the company I was with, Green Tech, who are still going. They've been a brilliant company, and there was some hands-on stuff that we were doing, contracting work, and it was hard. It was hard going.
Yeah.
Really. So the job at Oak Ridge came up. They had opened, it was a greenkeeping college, Oak Ridge, and they had opened their own 9-hole golf course there, partly as a greenkeeper training centre and partly as a commercial venture. So they're looking for somebody to run it, and lucky I got it. And I was 7.5 years there. It was brilliant. The best job I ever had.
Yeah, and did that change, I guess, your opportunity to play yourself and get to other courses, given that you're sort of dedicated to one place? Did anything change with that at the time?
It pretty much put a stop to it. I mean, I was working a ridiculous number of hours. I don't know. I never bothered to add them up. And I was never away for the place, really. And I kind of virtually stopped playing. I would play 6 to 10 times a year, and that was mostly just going away on trips with friends and whatnot. So I carried on playing away, but there was no intense golf, and I'd packed in. I'd moved away for Carmuirs at that time. Cindy and I lived through at Oak Ridge. We lived on the campus, so I was away for Falkirk, and out of the club, and that was pretty much the end of it, really. Never
And was
really
that,
took it up again.
yeah, so that was like I'm going to say your competitive playing, so your sort of more competitive days, did that really come to an end at Oak Ridge then with that job?
The competitive side had kind of dwindled by the late 90s. I had a few moments that told me that any thoughts of ever being particularly any good had come and gone.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's interesting, Brian, and there'll be people listening to this who, play a lot of golf and look, we're not saying we're trying to get to the PGA Tour or whatever tour, right? But there is something that requires, if you want to maintain a low handicap and perform to a certain level, you need to practice, you need to play. So it must be, it must have been quite hard to sort of wrestle that part where you're so engaged in the sport and then you've got a new opportunity in terms of a job and it takes you away from actually playing itself.
Yeah, I can see how people would think that. The job was so much fun that I didn't really miss playing because
Uh-huh.
I was sitting there involved in golf all day every day, and
Right.
we started that thing from scratch.
Uh-huh.
And I remember the first member joining until I left 7.5 years later. We had 300 members, and the place was going great.
Yeah.
So the whole thing about the spirit of club culture and friendship and people. We had beginners, we had ladies, we had experienced people that had been away for golf and were coming back, and it was just the best thing I've ever been involved in. It was brilliant.
And it's the biggest, I mean, it's the biggest thing in that community. It's literally the biggest part of the little village, right? I mean, it's massive within the village, having the college and then having the golf course. There must have been a lot of local people there.
They used to flock in, I think, well, I went in 2002, and the following summer, 2003, there was a heat wave in the UK, all over Britain, all the way through the summer for weeks on end.
Uh-huh.
And we had somewhere just over 29,000 rounds of golf at Oak Ridge in that golf season. There was just people everywhere. It was cheap.
Wow.
It was a tenner, and it was a tenner for 9 holes, and but there was just people everywhere, and it was just brilliant. It was the best thing
Yeah.
I've ever been involved in.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I think within a couple of years, um, Kingsfield opened up the driving range. Robert Arkley opened up over the road, and I wish that Oak Ridge had done that, had the foresight to put the driving range in somehow, um, because Robert and his team just did a magnificent job, and it was only a couple of miles away,
Yeah.
and there was no way but when Robert built the golf course over there was no way Oak Ridge was ever going to compete with it.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Yeah, it's a great facility down at Kingsfield as well, isn't it? Lovely place.
so that's when it was time to there was time to move away because of the
Uh-huh.
job that
Yeah.
Robert did, and we couldn't cope really. So summer of 2009, I was off, and I took over as secretary at Lancaster in the northwest of England.
Uh-huh. I was going to ask you about that as well. So what was that experience like being a secretary at a golf club?
Well, that was great, really, and it was looking like that's where we were going to move to and where we were going to live.
Uh-huh.
And I only got a year out of it in the end, because that was the first time we moved to Maidenhead, was in the summer of 2010,
Right.
when Cindy got the job in the south, and I decided, after a year, unfortunately, at Lancaster, that we would move down here.
Uh-huh.
So, being secretary of a big club, it was a little bit, back in the times. Lancaster, it was kind of a bit old fashioned,
Uh-huh.
and the committee, or board as they called it at the time, that the board of directors were keen to modernise it. So there was a bit of a free hand to to go on and pick things up. And there's a good lad followed on after me, Gary, who was my assistant at the time, and he took it and did a great job at Lancaster, and they've done really well. I was back there 2 summers ago, and the place was doing great. So
Brilliant.
that was a shame that was cut short, really, but it was a nice place.
Yeah, and then you mentioned the move to Maidenhead, but also I guess you go back and forward a little bit as well between Scotland and Maidenhead, because you joined Dalmunsey Estate in 2013. So how did that come around?
Well, that was a dream, really. Just a quick backstory on moving down the first time. It was a family venture, and Cindy and I came down to help it get set up, and the plan was to stay for a year. And we loved it, as we still do love it, and we stayed for 3.5, I think, three and a bit, and then it was time to go. The plan was always to go back. So so we saw the job in the Highlands, and I went there, and Cindy went to work at Preston Kinross Council. Now, I don't know if you've ever been to Dalmunsey. I suspect you probably haven't.
No, I haven't, no.
The 6,500 acre estate at the Spittal of Glenshee. There's a 9-hole golf course on it, self-catering cottages, a hotel, and they do shooting and all the sporting stuff on it. So family owned, and the family were getting that wee bit older, and they wanted a general manager to go in. So I got the job, and it was honestly, Ross, it was amazing. It was an amazing place to live and work, and the golf course was well, it was 100 years old now. It was designed by Tom Simpson, who did a lot of work for. It was famous for Cruden Bay and 1 or 2 other courses that I can't quite bring to mind. So he used to do a lot of private golf course design, and he designed the one at Dalmunsey for the chap who owned it, Sir Archibald Birkmeyer. And it's the most amazing place I've ever played golf. I think it's only open, say, 5 months of the year, because it goes under snow, and it gets a bit chilly up there.
Yeah,
you're only a few miles for the ski centre. So we lived there, and it was great. And then, as I say, the family were getting older, and it came that they got an offer from the neighbouring landowner to buy it, and quite rightly for them, I suppose, they took it. And the landowner said, well, I've got my own man, so so we had to go. But that was 2 years, and it was just amazing.
Yeah, I can imagine, especially with the scenery up in the Highlands as well. It must have been really beautiful.
It was a great place to live.
Yeah.
So,
and then you also, Brian, worked for the Scottish PGA region. I know that was a little bit later, but do you want to talk a little bit about the work with the PGA region, and also maybe some of the people that you met through that, and some of the competitions you would have been at as well?
Well, that was it, Ross. It ran straight into it. While I was on notice from Dalmunsey, I saw the job for the PGA. It was the start of 2015. I applied for it, and I got it, and I started straight away. And my first day, I was at Kings Barnes for a 4-ball pro only event up at Kings Barnes. That was my introduction to it. And then within a couple of weeks, it was the Scottish at Gleneagles. I was really excited about that, and all the officials got. I don't think it's held at Gleneagles anymore, but that particular week, Gleneagles were sponsoring it, and we were put up in the hotel, about half a dozen or 6 or 8 of us, the officials.
Nice.
So we stayed in the high. You think so? It certainly is very nice, but we didn't get much time in the hotel that week.
You got long days.
Because it was disrupted really seriously by the weather. And the 4 rounds over the 4 days, we struggled to get 2 rounds in the 4 days. It was
Uh-huh.
absolutely crazy. Anybody who played in that would remember it.
Uh-huh.
And it went to a playoff, and Chris Kelly won it
Right.
on they went back to the 18th and played the 18th as a playoff hole, and
Uh-huh.
he hold a putt for a 3 to win it.
Yeah, he's a really good player. Was that in the Kings as well?
That was on the Kings. Aye, sorry.
Yeah.
So he eagled the first playoff hole to win it, and
Brilliant.
then at the tail end of the year we were up at Cruden Bay for the Northern Open,
Uh-huh.
and Chris won that as well. He just played. I was out refereeing on the last day, and he just played some sparkling golf. It was brilliant to watch. There's a few other good players in that tartan tour, as you call it at the time.
Uh-huh.
Greg Hutchin and Graham Fox, and somebody you know well yourself, Paul O'Hara,
Yeah.
and a
Yeah,
few
some
other.
really good. There's some incredible players in the Scottish PGA region, just the setup and the amount of ability that these guys have got is phenomenal. They go out and shoot 6, 7, 8 under par every day, basically, to make their living. It's incredible.
Absolutely incredible is the word. So that was great, but it was only seasonal.
Uh-huh.
But it was hard work, but it was brilliant fun. We were at Renaissance for a couple of days, and North Berwick. It was at the time when the Scottish Open was at Gullin.
Uh-huh.
They had the European Tour put a qualifier on at North Berwick the weekend before.
Oh, yeah.
It was either Saturday, Sunday, or Sunday, Monday. I can't quite remember, but there was 5 places up for grabs.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't just PGA, but the PGA and the European Tour co-organised it.
Uh-huh.
So there was more pros playing that weekend than just the PGA ones. So that was a brilliant weekend. The weather was great, and that was a real sense of quite a big event.
Brilliant. And then from that experience, Brian, there's a few years in between, but you moved back to Maidenhead eventually. So what brought you back south in the end?
Well, we did, and it was back to the family business again. For some business reasons that we came back to, the business has now been disposed of, but that was to help out with the preparations for that. So we decided to up lock, stock and barrel, sold our house in Falkirk, which we hadn't done the first time around, but we did this time, and we moved down at the end of 2017. I think I've got that right. And well, time marches on. We're in 2024, but we're here for well, let's say we're here for good.
Yeah. And how have you found the golf in the southeast England compared to Scotland? How's it been for you?
Well, it's 3 times more expensive for a start.
Yeah, that's true. Yep, absolutely. Can resonate with that, Brian.
If you compare your golf fees at Carmure's with the golf fees at Maidenhead, the courses are similar sort of stature, edge of town golf clubs. There'll be 3 times a difference.
Yeah.
And what you would have to pay. But yeah, the culture is slightly different. There's a lot more roll up golf, which is great. It's something that when I first joined Maidenhead, my brother's a member there, and we found ourselves in the 8 o'clock Saturday roll up,
Right.
which is exactly what it says on the tin. You go and it's balls in the hat, and the first 3 ball comes out, and then the second 3 ball comes out, and you tee off, and then you come in, you have a drink and a bit of lunch, and away you go. So the roll up culture is alive and well.
Uh-huh.
And I'm a member at Temple now, which is on the other side of the town, and I'm in the Saturday 11 o'clock roll up, and it's the same thing. You meet
Uh-huh.
in the clubhouse at 10:15 and sort out the 4 balls, and off you go. So the culture is slightly different, and as much as it's maybe not so much as a kind of working man's game as it is in Falkirk and Motherwell, and the kind of thing that kind of the people are slightly different.
Yeah. I think that's one of the things, and I was talking about it in a recent episode, that in Scotland, and people in this area in the southeast where we are might not believe it, but basically in Scotland, everybody could play golf to some level, most likely, right? Whether you played football or whatever, somebody would be swinging a golf club somewhere near a football pitch. So
That's a fact.
invariably, as a youngster, you would, the famous phrase "no ball games," that'll be right. Definitely applied. People would be having golf balls in all kinds of locations, wouldn't they?
That's exactly true. You would never see a sign down here at a football pitch that says no golf, and
Yeah,
you see that all the time.
I know. There's places in Motherwell. I'm sure there's still signs that say no golf allowed,
No golf,
which is quite fun. You want to see that down here. But then, in terms of being down here, Brian, one of the things that we have to talk about is, well, COVID. That was not a great time for everybody, but for you, you found an inspiration that I think not many people would have, and you decided to write your own book. So do you want to talk about how that came around and how the process has been for you? I'd really love to hear about it.
Well, the book was a thing during COVID. Everybody was anybody that played golf. We all did the same thing. We got involved in daft Facebook things and filling in with things. How many eagles have you had, and how many times how many holes in one have you had, and all that jazz. I've not had any, by the way.
You and my brother in the same club. Don't worry about
it. And I decided that I would try and work out how many golf courses I'd played. Scotland, England, and so I was on websites and I was writing them all down, and I had nothing else to do. I was categorizing them all, and I realized I had a list that went Try, which is up in the Highlands between Fort William and Mallaig, Traigh, which is Gaelic for beach. It's a wee 9-holer up there. So I had Try, Tullyallen, Turnberry. That was the wee bit that my eyes went to. And I thought, there's a wee Highland 9-holer, and then there's a standard members club at Tullyallen, and then there's one of the best golf courses in the world.
Yeah.
Right next to each other in my list. And I thought, I've played everywhere from around a wee field with flagsticks in it to one of the best courses in the world. So then I started taking some notes, and I said to Cindy, my wife, I said, I think I'm going to write a book. And she said, well, just you do that then. So I did, and 2 years and 3 months later, I had it finished, and I self-edited it and proofread it, and a couple of friends took it from me and proofread it and told me what they think I should take out and put in. And eventually we got there, and I self-published it at the end of March. And it's the weirdest feeling to see your book on Amazon. to see it on Amazon and people buying it and sending you photographs on Messenger of just bought your book.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. And the point there, Brian, is that you've done it all yourself. You've obviously had outside help from people in a sense, but it's not like you've got a massive team behind you. It's Team Brian, I'm sure, and your wife as well, that's put it together, right?
Yeah, it was just writing down loads of notes and then taking it chapter by chapter. And I'm no different for thousands of other guys, Ross. I started it off with a wee bit about growing up and having an obsession with winning the club championship. It's funny, when you're 14, 15, you look at the gold lettering up on that board and you think, I want to get my name up on that board. So it was a wee bit of an obsession that I wanted to win it one day. So I started off a wee bit of that, and then a wee bit about trying to play competitively and discovering that I wasn't really that great. I had a wee bit of success in county golf and some of the some of the people that I met and some of the places I played. And then I got on to, just like any other boy, yourself included, going on golf trips with my pals. And it's a wider story than just the golf. You know, it's I've been all over the United Kingdom playing in the stories in that book.
Yeah.
So it's been a wee journey of the good times in my life and the not so good times in my life, a wee journey of discovery at times, and going to all the corners of the country, and well, just enjoying golf. Really, it's the best game there is, and I've made the most of it.
And I don't know if I've missed it there, but how many golf courses have you played, Brian, in total when you did that list?
I think it's 534.
Wow. And is
I think it's
that ones just in the UK and Ireland that you counted, or is there further afield as well?
these are only in the UK and Ireland.
Wow, 534 in the UK and Ireland. My God. And what is there, about 1,800 in between Ireland, Scotland, and England and Wales? You must have played nearly a third of them, right? You can't be far off.
I'm not sure about the breakdown.
It's a huge number.
That's as far as I got, 534. I'll
Wow.
maybe add a few more, but we'll see. I think I might have got it out of my system.
Maybe. Depends where the Seniors Opens are. Depends where you can get playing, right?
Oh, now you mention it, I think I've got a wee trip in July. Where I'm going to Panel, which is up at Harrogate. I've never played Panel before, and there's a couple either side of it that will play. Me and the guy Duncan, a friend of mine from Maidenhead, that does all the bookwork and makes all the entries and books all the hotels and everything. So we're going to Panel, and there's one in September, but I can't remember, but it's not very far away. It's up in Northamptonshire. So I'll maybe tick off another half a dozen this year.
Wow. I mean, that's incredible. So you're talking... So how long have you been playing golf? Was it 50 years, you said, Brian? Something like that?
50 years.
So it's on average at least 10 brand new golf courses you've never played before every single year for 50 years. That's phenomenal.
I crammed a lot in the 90s, though.
So was that between those jobs where you were going to the golf clubs all the time?
Yes, perhaps I played a wee bit more than I maybe ought to have.
You declared. Brilliant. So some questions to follow up on that, Brian. So you played golf in the 4 nations, right? Or should I say 5 technically, of course. So what would you say was your favourite trip to Wales?
My favourite trip to Wales was when I went with my brother to play Aberdovey, which is out on the west coast. Which is a brilliant track. It takes you right to the heart of golf. There's a railway station right next to the clubhouse. You park on one side of the railway and walk over the platform, and you're in the clubhouse. Right. Straight out, virtually straight out and straight back. A wee kink at the end. Fantastic place to play golf. And then an hour up the road, you're at Royal St David's, Harlech, which is another tremendous track. It's like 13 holes of one type of flat links golf, and then 5 holes of dune land. And that's another one. You virtually drive right up the side of the railway, and that's another railway club. You park on one side, walk over the railway track into the clubhouse, and we moved on for there and spent a couple of nights in how do you say it, Porthmadog. And we played the local course there the next day. But that trip, Aberdovey and Royal St David's, was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, sounds awesome. And getting links golf in as well is brilliant.
Wales is great. It's a great place to play golf. The welcome is amazing. Play all the way along the south coast from Pennard and Porthcawl and Pyle and Kenfig. Ashburnham, Southern Down, all the way along to Tenby. It's the welcome you get in the south of Wales is amazing. They love their golf.
Yeah, and I've never played golf in Wales yet, actually, so that's one. Well, it sounds like a few I need to tick off as well. Brilliant. So
The
then,
photograph, the photograph on the front cover of the book's in Wales.
what course is that?
It's on the 9th tee at North Wales Golf Club at Llandudno.
It looks amazing. Beautiful view. Brilliant. So then, Ireland. What would be your favourite trip in Ireland?
Oh well, my favourite trip actually coincided with my biggest golfing disappointment, if you would indulge me.
Oh no, what have I done?
We my favourite trip was the one where we started at Lahinch and then moved to Adair Manor, where the Ryder Cup's going to be when it comes back to Europe, whenever it is, 27 or 26. 27 it'll be. And then we moved over to Ballybunion.
Right.
And I say it's my, because it was the bet. We were in a camper van, me, my brother, and two other blokes, and we just had the time of our lives in Ireland. And the reason I'll say it was the best trip was because of that, because of the company and the fun that we had. And my biggest disappointment, because the weather, the one and only time I played Ballybunion, the weather was absolutely horrendous.
Right.
There's the worst conditions I've ever played golf in. And I don't know if I'll ever have the chance to go back to Ballybunion. And it was absolutely, the four of us, we couldn't even talk to one another. It was so bad near the end. And the closing holes on the old course at Ballybunion are really brutal. And the lost the lost ball count went absolutely off the charts, because you had to just go and look for your own ball. There was nobody coming to help you.
It sounds like some at the Caddyshack with the preacher.
It was like that. The preacher had better weather than we had that day at Ballybunion.
Sounds like it. What a shame. And after going all that way as well.
But a great golfing town, Ballybunion. There's pubs all the way down both sides of the street, and two courses. The other course is just obviously nowhere near as good, and we played it the following day and the weather was fine. So that was a real killer.
Yeah, that's a shame. Brilliant. Okay, so then best trip in England. Where would you say your best trip was in England?
Well, the best trip coincides with my favourite course in England.
Okay.
When we went, I don't know, it was 2009, something like that. We went to Royal St George's and played there. Stayed 2 nights in Sandwich. And played the middle day at Deal at Royal St Ports, which I think is my favourite English course.
Nice.
Historic open venue. I think it held it once in the 1910s, and then never managed to host it again. And then we played Prince's the next day.
Lovely golf course. Very nice.
And that was a brilliant trip. You're in Sandwich, and these places like Nairn and North Berwick and Ballybunion, and they're proper golfing places. You know, everywhere you go, you're steeped in golf and different types of history. Sandwich is a medieval old town, or large village, small town, and that was just an amazing trip. And we got great weather. It was April, maybe end of April. The weather was fantastic. The courses were brilliant, and I've never been able to knock Deal Royal St Ports off my top favourite English course since then.
Wow, there you go. And am I right in saying Scottish Pro still at that time at Royal St George's? Was it still Andrew Brooks?
It was. It was Andrew. He was still there. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think his son Michael worked there as well, didn't he? At some point.
Yeah. The interesting thing about Deal, It's a 2-ball course, so we had to split up and play in two balls, or we had the option to play in foursomes.
Wow. So you're only allowed to play 2 golf balls between 4 at any one time?
That's right.
Wow. There's some places like that in Surrey as well, isn't there?
It's not the only one. With my brother and I went to Rye, which is just along the West Kent, East Sussex border, I suppose, along near Hastings.
Yeah.
Historic old club and course, and that's a 2-ball course, and there's a few others. Huntercombe, it's 2 balls, and there's another couple.
Right.
West Sussex, I think, it's 2 balls.
Fantastic.
So that's a kind of old south of England thing.
Superb. Right, we're going to hit Scotland then. What's your favourite trip in Scotland that you've had?
My favourite trip or trips in Scotland are the trips we used to make to the Macquarie on Islay. We went there 3 times. Went there 3 times. I'm laughing because the middle time we decided to fly, and it was chaos. We were at Glasgow Airport, and we were all in the bar, and we'd all had one too many, and the flight got cancelled, and we were kind of stranded because all the cars were in the car park, nobody could drive them. So
what a start.
so that was a bit that made that for an interesting trip. We went to have a night out in Glasgow.
Of course.
But the first time,
what else was going to do?
The first time we went on the ferry, and then the third time we went on the ferry. And these trips, the Macquarie at that time, going back nearly 30 years, and it was kind of tired and rugged and sort of rough and ready. The hotel was never busy when we were there, and the golf course was just sitting there. It was brilliant. I don't know if you've ever been, but apparently it's a lot. It was taken over, and DJ Russell did a lot of work on the redesign, and they revamped the hotel, and apparently it's brilliant now. But we loved going there, and you had the place to yourself. We were in the chalets, and it was great. So my favourite Scottish trips were over there, but it's a thing I've done less of, is actual trips in Scotland. It's been
I guess it would be sort of typically going to opens and stuff where you were there with your work, right? Yeah. Fantastic. So we're going to move into the back nine here, Brian. Some rapid fire, hopefully. Favourite golfer? Who's your favourite golfer? Past or present?
Well, past, and it probably always will be, my favourite golfer is Jack Nicklaus.
Yep.
That was that was everything that mattered to me when I was in my teens, was Jack Nicklaus. I used to try and dress like him, a different colour hair, unfortunately, but I would the navy slacks and the white shoes and the white shirt and a yellow or a red V-neck. That was what I wore, because that's what Jack wore. And there was endless kind of arguments with my dad, because my dad was a Tom Watson fan.
There you go.
By that time, Watson kept beating him. He beat him at the Masters, he beat him at Turnberry, he beat him at Pebble Beach.
Right.
And, so that was a kind of bonus.
You're starting to back the wrong horse.
Aye. So Jack was it for me, and then later on after that, Nick Faldo was my favourite player. And when I was playing in the 90s, Nick was at the top, and I actually didn't dress like Nick because he had that George on the front of his jersey, didn't he? So I didn't go down that route, but
you weren't having
the same kind of height, and I just loved the way he played.
Yeah, he's a phenomenal player. I think people forget that. I know that his kind of personality, which comes across sometimes a wee bit better on the TV now, his personality was, I guess, quite standoffish back in the day, but what a golfer.
Yes.
Absolutely brilliant.
a fantastic player.
Yeah. Right. Best golfer you've ever played with?
Well, the best golfer I ever played with, who went on to be the best golfer that I ever played with, would have been Stephen Gallagher.
Wow.
If you know what I mean.
Uh-huh.
We had Carmuir's had an annual match against Bathgate because of a member that came from Bathgate to Falkirk, I think, in the 50s or the 60s, and it kept going. So we were playing, so it'd be late 80s, the turn of the 80s into the 90s, and Stevie came through. His dad was a prominent, Jim was a prominent member. Bathgate might have been captain at the time, and Stevie was a prodigy, was coming through, and you could tell. I mean, he was a fabulous player at 15, 16, 17.
Uh-huh.
And then, of course, he won everything, and he turned pro and played in the Ryder Cup. So he would be up. I played with Andy Coulthart, who also became Ryder Cupper. And in terms of the amateurs that I played with, I think I said to you once before that playing county golf and playing in the Opens, you come across all the top players because you see them in the clubhouse, but you never get drawn with them, and you never get drawn against them because they're playing number 1 and 2, and I'm playing number 9 and 10. So you know them, and they kind of know you. You would pass Craig Watson, and you would say, "Hi, Craig," and he'd say, "Hi, big man," because it doesn't really know your name. So it's one of these things.
Or they call you Jim. All right, Jim.
And it's one of these things, you know them, and they know you're in the Stirlingshire team, but they don't really know which one you are. They don't know if you're 8, 9, or 10, because they're never going to be playing you. But some of the good players I did play with. I told you the story one day at Stirling where I turned up and I was looking for my name down at 9 or 10, because that's, if I ever got in the team, I only ever just scraped into the team. Because somebody couldn't play or whatever. And I saw my name at number 2. And I was playing Graham Rankin, who was Walker Cup. I don't know, he's playing off about +4 or something. And I thought, I think I might be up against it the day. If I was playing him in the club knockout, I'd be getting about 5 shots. And it was at Stirling, and it wasn't a great day, and I got horsed, and it was, Graham wasn't actually very pleased about it, because I think he might have took it as because it was a lamb to the slaughter, and our selector maybe thought, it doesn't matter who we put up the top against Rankin, he'll probably get beat. So he put me up and dropped somebody down, and I can't remember if we won the match or not because of it, but it was a bit of a tough one. I was lucky I played all right, and I got beat 5 and 4. I was maybe 3 over.
You don't want to finish that off with a wee 10 and 8 just to settle your nerves. You want to be staying away for that sort of chat.
Well, it could have happened. If you're not playing very well and you go out in 40 or something,
especially with Graham. I mean,
you could be 7 or 8 down, because he just absolutely machined me to death that day. He never missed. He never looked like hitting a bad shot.
It could be 6 under through 9 without even thinking. Dead easy.
Brilliant. Graham was a super player. I played quite a bit actually with Jim Milligan when we were both boys. And
was he the guy? Did he hold the winning putt in the Walker Cup, Jim Milligan?
He did actually. I did chipped in. He chipped in to win the Walker Cup, and I played a few times with Jim when we were 17, 18, 19, before he really became a superb player.
The wardrobe full of Titleist Bellatas was the story with Jim, wasn't it? They had a wardrobe full of them.
Well, he couldn't stop winning them.
Brilliant. Right. Might have touched on this already, but what's the best shot you've ever hit? I know there's loads, but pick the best one.
Well, I'm going to go back to that obsession with getting your name up in gold letters. The first time I won the club championship, I was up the 18th against my namesake, a guy called Scott Inglis, who was a super player. He was the best player in our club.
Right.
And I had never beaten him before. I say that I never beat him again, but I did happen to beat him this particular night in the semi-final. And 18th at Carmuir's at Falkirk's a par 5, and he's on looking like he might get a 4, and I'm in the bunker short right, and there's a bottom bunker and a top bunker, and I'm in the bottom bunker. Got to play over the next bunker and up onto the green. And I had been in that bunker often enough to know that I didn't like that bunker, because normally you just flop it into the next one. And somehow I knocked it stiff out of that bunker, and he missed his putt, and I went through, and you know, it probably is. It's obviously lucky that it goes stiff. It would have been a good shot at 10 feet, but it was stiff, and he gave me it, and that was it, and I won the final. So that is probably the most memorable good shot.
And the medium length, call it medium length, as in like beyond 25 yards for a bunker shot, they're really pretty tough, right? I mean, a full shot's relatively easy. A short shot's okay, but the kind of longer ones are really tough.
It was a horrible bunker. I mean, it was a terrible shot that got me. It should never have been in there, but it was just a horrible shot. So that was nice.
Right. I've covered the courses you've played, so we don't need to do that one. Favourite course in Scotland? I think you've kind of touched on this a wee bit, but just what's your favourite golf course that you've played? Or maybe one actually you want to get to and you've seen?
No, my favourite course is the old course at St Andrews. No doubt about that. I've played it casually, and I've played it competitively, and it's just an amazing place. I remember played the one and only time I played in the Lynx Trophy, which would be, if it's no 30 years ago, then it's close on 30 years ago. And I had only played the old course once before that, and I remember stepping onto the 12th tee, because for the first 2.5 hours or 2 hours or whatever, you've been playing away from the town and away from the atmosphere and away from it, so you don't really get it. And you walk up onto the 12th tee and you look back and you just go, wow. And you see all the spires, and you just see everything. You see the West Sands, and then you just play, and then you play your way all the way up the street and all the way up into the 18th green, and it's spiritual, really.
Yeah.
That's probably my best ever memory in golf, is that day.
Yeah.
I was probably a million over, and I went up onto the 12th tee, and just looking back into the it was just amazing. And I don't think you can ever do it and no be struck by it.
No, and even just standing in the first tee, Brian, I mean, the hairs in the back of your neck are going up just playing with one of your pals, never mind the competition. It's incredible. And it's the widest fairway in the world, right? And you're still standing there thinking, am I going to keep this in the planet? It's crazy.
There's a funny thing happened the last time I was there. It was a kind of winter deal. It was 4 of us, my brother and I, and 2 other chaps, and we booked accommodation, and we played the old, the new, and the Jubilee. And the old was the middle was the middle day, and it was mats. I can't remember if the other 2 courses were.
Oh, okay.
I'm laughing at the thought of it. I can't remember if the other 2 courses were mats. I think they might not have been, but the old course was certainly mats.
Right.
So we all got good drives away, and you're struck, but you're kind of you're grown men, but you're struck by where you are and what it is you're doing. So my brother's up the right and gets to his ball, and he's got the shot over the ditch, and he caught it heavy, and he didn't even reach the ditch. So he's like, "Oh, I can't believe I've hit that shot." And a boy came over to him and said, "Remember, it's Matt's." And he hadn't even put his mat down, and he duffed it and took this big divot out of the first fairway.
Double
And
insult.
the boy was right across him, and Ian's like, "Oh, I'm really sorry. I was wrapped up in it, and if I'd had my mat, I would have got away with that, because you get away with everything on the mats, obviously."
Yeah.
So his first shot of the day, forgot the mat and duffed it about 50 yards.
Fantastic. Right. You might have touched on this. You talked about your favourite course in England, but what's your favourite course outside of Scotland?
Aye, Portrush, Royal Portrush, maybe. It might be Waterville, or it might be County Down.
It's a decent trio to pick. I'm going to force you to pick one.
But I think it's Portrush.
Awesome.
Aye, I think it's Portrush for the whole 18. The County Down, the front nine at County Down. You know, you often say that the front nine at County Down, the people say the front nine at Royal Aberdeen, or the back nine at Pyle and Kenfig, or the back nine at Hillside. You get courses with great nines. And certainly the front nine at County Down is right up there. But Portrush, when I played it, they had the 17th and 18th, which was done away with by the time they had the Open there in 2019. They had amalgamated 2 holes for the course below. I can't remember what it's called, the second course there.
Right.
So the 16th, when we played it, the 17th was a long hole played away up to another clubhouse, and on the sign on the back of the clubhouse, I can't remember the name of the club, but it said the home of Graham McDowell. So that was where he had grown up.
There you go.
Apparently he's a Portrush boy, but he wasn't a member of Royal. He was a member of this other one.
Right.
And then the 18th played back, but they did away with these 2 holes for the Open. So I'm going to go with Portrush over Waterville over Royal County Down. Waterville's an amazing place. That's the place with the statue of Payne Stewart outside the clubhouse.
Okay.
Waterville in the 90s was where Tiger and Mark O'Meara and Justin Leonard and Payne Stewart and Jim Furyk and David Duval, they all used to go the week before the Open.
So this was a fishing and golf trip in Ireland then?
And they had elected Payne Stewart to be the club captain in the Millennium year of 2000. And some of the Waterville members were at the Ryder Cup at Brookline in 1999. And where Stewart was playing, he was a US Open champion at the time. And they gave him they inducted him as club captain at Waterville at the Ryder Cup at Brookline. And of course he never made it back, because within a month he was up in the plane and lost his life, unfortunately.
Yeah,
so there's a statue of Payne Stewart outside the clubhouse.
I didn't know that. He was a great golfer, but I think he was somebody that people just loved to see because he was different. He used to wear those American football outfits with the +4s and all that. It's just superb.
Every venue he went to, he wore the colours of the.
There was different NFL teams, I think, wasn't it? Is that right?
That's
different
right.
NFL teams, right?
Brilliant player, better player than better play than he gets credit for.
Yeah, really good putter as well. It's an awesome putter. Brilliant golfer. Brilliant. So this might be a toughie. Struggled to get the course outside Scotland. So favourite golf hole you've ever played? You're not allowed one. What's your favourite golf hole?
Right. Can it be on Portrush?
Of course, it can be anywhere you want. Just one though.
All right. Well, I'll move away from Portrush because I was going to. It's called Calamity Corner or something like that. It's the par 3 across the side of the cliffs, an amazing par 3.
All right.
I wonder if it might be a par 3 because there's that many, or it could be the first at Machrihanish. First at Machrihanish, I remember back to my greenkeeping days. I was going to see Ian, the greenkeeper, first thing the following morning, and I had said to him, "Listen, I'll be down in Campbelltown. Would it be possible for me to nip out and play a few holes?" He says, "I knock yourself out. That's fine. I'll see you in the morning." So I got there. It would be about 7 o'clock. And quite often when I did it, there would be somebody going out for a few holes and I would join them and maybe only play half a dozen or 9 or cut across and just get some chat going. There was not a soul about. And so I played Machrihanish on my own. It was kind of misty and smirry rain, and I was round in a couple of hours just playing. There was not a breath, and it was dull. It was one of these days when everything was kind of the same colour, the grass, the sky, everything was kind of greeny grey, and that was quite spiritual.
Yeah,
so,
sounds wonderful.
Maybe
Sounds
the first at Machrihanish because of that, just that setting over there in front of the pro shop.
Yeah, and it's funny, I've talked on a couple of the episodes about the experiences, and yeah, it's just how you feel a lot of times, isn't it, with the golf holes and the courses and the weather or the scenery just makes it something really special.
Golf's done that for me quite a lot, I must say. That you just remember standing on the first tee at Port Marnock, scene of the Walker Cup and a few Irish Opens, and standing on that first tee and just looking around with my brother and 2 of my pals and just thinking, you can't really beat this. You know, you're there, you've just had a sandwich and you're out in the first tee, and the starters at these places are always brilliant, especially over in Ireland, more so than anywhere else. And you just think this is just brilliant. There's no other
Top to top, isn't it?
There's no other word for it.
Yeah, fantastic. Right, so how often do you get, last question here, Brian, in terms of that 9 holes, how often do you get to play these days?
Well, I would have said once a week. I haven't played since September because I had some eye surgery a couple of weeks ago. So I really struggled with my eyesight over the winter. But the surgery went quite well, and I'm going to go up and I'm going to go up and play in the roll up on Saturday and take it from there. But it's mostly once a week. If you'd asked me this time last year, I would have said I get out once a week. Playing the roll up on Saturday. Medals are on a Sunday. If there's a medal, which is monthly, I'll skip the Saturday and play on the Sunday.
Oh, that's great to hear you're on the mends. That's fantastic news. Brilliant.
Thanks. It was a bit of a worry.
Yeah, of course. Right, so Brian, listen, thanks for taking us through your life and golfing journey. It's been really interesting to hear about it, and the 534 golf courses and all the different places you've worked. I mean, I've played a decent chunk of golf courses, but nothing like that. And the memories that you've got are really vivid. It's incredible, the recollection you've got, which I'm sure was part of the reason that you got to the book. And to write a book on your own, with the help of friends and stuff is phenomenal. So just wrapping up here, Brian, for the listeners, if they're thinking about doing their own book, what advice would you have for them?
I would say get it done. I would say write down your categories and then get it done. I had 131,000 words at one time, and I got it down to just under 92,000
Uh-huh.
just through editing. I might go back to the 40,000 that I knocked out, because it was you just type everything that you
Uh-huh.
can think of, and there's expense you can go to if you want to have it edited professionally, or if you want to have it proofread professionally. I decided not to. I decided to just edit it myself and ask a couple of pals who are prepared to read it and say, no, that's rubbish, or take that out, that's pointless, or oh no, you can't say that, leave that. There was a couple of things. There was a few things I read that I had written a couple of years ago that I
Right.
thought, well, that's completely irrelevant. And
Uh-huh.
my writing style had kind of changed from the start to the
Yeah.
end. So you have to go through and just standardize it all. Some things are in italics, some things are in inverted commas and stuff. Sometimes it was dad and sometimes it was dad with a capital D, and so you just
Uh-huh.
have to standardize it all so
Yeah.
that somebody reading your book is not going to think it's rubbish. And then, so I saved a bit of money but cost myself a lot of time by doing all the
Uh-huh.
editing and rewriting and stuff like that. And then I found a self-publishing house, because obviously no publishing house is going to pick up a book by an unknown writer.
Uh-huh.
So you have to take the plunge and publish it, self-publish, and it goes on to Amazon, and they take their cut, and it's a print on order. If you go on and order it tonight, you'll get it tomorrow. And I just don't know how it works. It just gets printed somewhere and goes into a wee envelope and then lands on your doormat.
That's really cool, isn't it? So you don't
And
even need to carry inventory for it.
no, it's an amazing machine, really. And you get your royalties every now and again.
That is really cool. That's awesome.
It was a really weird feeling the first time I saw it on Amazon, and then
Yeah,
people
I can
started sending
imagine.
me photographs to say, I've got your book.
Yeah.
But if anyone's thinking about it, I would say crack on, because it's great. And this, I was only able to talk to you. If I'd talked to you 3 years ago, I wouldn't have remembered a fraction of the stuff that I've remembered tonight. I've only remembered it because I've written it,
Uh-huh.
because I've remembered it and written it. It's amazing. It's amazing what you remember.
Oh, that's fantastic. I mean, you've got so many great stories, and I mean, the book is, we touched on a couple of your trips that you've had and experiences you've had, Brian, but you're talking hundreds of pages and content and all the words you said about different experiences you've had in all these different golf clubs. It's really nice.
Well, thanks. That's good to hear.
Yeah, fantastic. So, Brian, listen, thanks for coming on. It's been great to meet you. Thanks for taking the time to come on the podcast. I really appreciate it. It's something that's new to me. I'm only on episode 14 now, so yeah, I've really enjoyed this and appreciate you coming on to the show. So
No
thanks for
problem.
coming on.
I'm following in some good footsteps. I've listened to all of the episodes, and I'm following in some impressive footsteps. So well done to you. It's a brilliant venture. It's absolutely amazing.
Thanks. It's been great fun, and it's great to hear from different people who are, as I coined with the title of the show, linked by golf. And for you, it was how did you find the greens, right? So
That's right.
yeah,
Well, that was the
fantastic.
question that I think we mentioned this before, just before we finish up, but if you ever go anywhere and you meet one of the members or the secretary, or they say, "Have you enjoyed yourself?" You say, "Oh, aye, it's been great." It's like they just blurt it out. They're saying, "How did you find the greens?" And that's the question, isn't it?
Yeah, and invariably, Brian, I'm sure you've been at golf courses that maybe haven't been in great condition, and the greens are great. And all you remember is the fact the greens are great to putt on. And then other places could be looking amazing, and you go on the greens and you think, "What's happened here?" So
That's exactly right. Aye. So that became the title of the book. How did you find the greens?
Fantastic. Well, listen, good luck with the sales, Brian. I think it's an amazing achievement to get your book published at all. There'll be so many people would think about it and talk about it, but you've done it, and you should be really proud of getting that done. Well done.
Thanks, Ross.
No problem. Take care. Bye-bye.
All the best. Cheers.
Hope you enjoyed that one, folks. Brian's had a great journey with golf right throughout his life. He clearly loves playing the game. He's been involved in administration. He's been involved in sales in the game as well, working at different golf clubs. And his stories are fantastic, so please do go and have a look at his book. In terms of follow-ups from here, please remember to like, share and subscribe to the podcast, and I'll have another episode out soon. Take care. Bye-bye.